Hello, today I want to talk about weight because it is a very big health issue. Now, you may have no problems at all with your weight, but I suspect you know plenty of people who do. And I think it's important for us all to understand what causes weight gain and, more importantly, how to reverse it. From other videos I've done, you'll probably realise that I'm quite keen on comparing the past with the present. I think we can learn a lot from doing that. This is a typical street scene from the 1960s. I've looked at everybody in this picture and I can't find anybody who is overweight. But if we move forward 50 years to the 2010s, this is a typical street scene. This is an enormous change to have taken place in such a short period of time. The figures show that 64% of UK adults are classed as being overweight or obese. That's over 35 million people. 1 in 5 UK adults want to lose a lot of weight. Apparently more than 4,000 people a day search online for ways to lose weight quickly. More than 1 million people were admitted to hospital with obesity-related problems in 2019-20. And what about our children? These are the figures for primary school. At age 4 to 5, 10% of boys and 9% of girls are obese. This rises to 22% of boys and 18% of girls by age 10 to 11 in year 6. On this chart, the light green shading is for children who are overweight and the dark green are the ones who are obese. So during their time in primary school, children who are overweight the numbers stay about the same, but the children who are obese doubles during that time. How are we letting this happen to our children? If you listen to the NHS, any of the weight loss companies, or do an online search, you'll be advised to eat less and move more, or to put it another way, expend more calories than you consume, or go into a calorie deficit. The trouble is, people have been trying this for decades and it clearly isn't working. It works in the short term, but it doesn't work in the long term, and the reason it doesn't work is because weight isn't controlled by calories. It's controlled by hormones, and the type of food we eat produces different hormones. And we've known this since 1956. Let's look again at the past. This study by Keckwick and Powen was published in The Lancet on the 28th of July 1956. It's a comprehensive piece of work, and I will just summarise the main points. They studied a group of obese people who were in hospital. Because they were in hospital, they were able to control everything they ate and everything they did and everything they drank. So they knew the results they would get would be accurate. Keckwick and Powen knew that calorie restriction worked, but it often didn't work very well, and it didn't work well in the long term. So they wanted to see if different macronutrients would make a difference, macronutrients being protein, fat and carbohydrate. They divided their people up into 4 groups and fed each of them 1,000 calories per day, but the makeup of those calories was different. One group were fed 1,000 calories, 90% of which was carbohydrate. Another group had 1,000 calories, 90% protein. A third group had 1,000 calories, 90% fat, and the final group had 1,000 calories, but a mixed diet which consisted of almost equal proportions of carbohydrate, fat and protein. 1,000 calories a day is about half the daily requirement, so you would expect everyone to lose some weight on these diets. If calories are the most important thing for weight loss, then you would expect all 4 groups to lose pretty much the same weight. But these are the results we found. Each bar represents the amount of weight lost for each individual, and the higher the bar goes up the page, the more weight has been lost. First thing to notice is that each group is different, despite them all eating exactly the same number of calories. So you can see calories are not the most important determinant of weight loss. The mixed diet group on the right hand side all lost weight. The protein group, second from the left, did better than them, but the most weight loss occurred in those eating 90% fat. Strange that we're always told to cut out fat to lose weight. The group on the left have clearly done the worst, and they were eating 90% carbohydrate. Even on a meagre 1,000 calories a day, half of them put a little weight on. This all shows that calorie counting is not the answer, and eating too much carbohydrate is the culprit in weight gain. Keckwick and Powen went a step further after seeing these results, and with 5 obese patients they increased their intake to 2,000 calories a day, and then later to 2,600 calories a day. I'm going to show you the 4th paragraph from the summary at the end of their published study. At a level of intake of 2,000 calories per day, weight was maintained or increased in 4 out of 5 obese patients. In these same subjects, significant weight loss occurred when calorie intake was raised to 2,600 per day, provided this intake was given mainly in the form of fat and protein. If you go on the recommended calorie restriction diet, you will invariably feel hungry most of the time. After a while, your metabolism slows because your body thinks there's a famine and it wants to save energy. You start to feel lethargic and cold, which leads to feeling irritable, and you're supposed to persevere on willpower and maybe a pat on the back. Eventually, you give up, having lost a little weight, and you go back to eating the way you used to, but your metabolism has slowed and you pile the weight back on. There are millions of yo-yo dieters going through this torment at any one time. But Keckwick and Powen showed that overweight people can lose their excess weight on 2,600 calories if they eat protein and fat and greatly reduce carbohydrate. You don't have to starve yourself if you eat the correct diet. Near the beginning of this video, I showed pictures from the 1960s and the 2010s. What happened during those years to produce such a drastic change? Well, this is what happened. We adopted the National Dietary Guidelines. These National Dietary Guidelines were first introduced in America in 1977. Britain copied them and adopted them in 1983. The reason for them is the subject of a different video, but let's just stick to what they say. They were originally depicted as the pyramid you can see, and at the base of the pyramid the recommendations are for most of your food on your plate to consist of bread, cereal, rice and pasta, which is almost exclusively carbohydrate. Above that, in slightly smaller amounts, are vegetables and fruits, which contain minerals and vitamins but a large amount of carbohydrate as well. Above that, in smaller quantities, they allow you to have milk, yogurt and cheese, dairy products, and also meat, poultry, fish, beans, eggs and nuts. So protein group. And right at the top, to be used sparingly, are fats, oils and sweets. What happened after the introduction of the high carbohydrate, low fat diet recommendations? This chart is from the US, but it's typical of every country that adopted a diet that discourages the protein and fat that our ancestors ate as we evolved. Obesity rates turned up almost immediately after the recommendations were introduced in 1980. Why does a high carbohydrate diet cause weight gain and obesity? Mainly it's because of the hormone insulin. Carbohydrates from bread, rice and pasta consist of long molecules containing lots of glucose molecules joined together. When we eat them, our digestive enzymes separate the glucose from the chain and lots of glucose enters our bloodstream. We have a need for a certain level of glucose or blood sugar. An adult has about 8 pints of blood. If you imagine a bucket with a gallon of liquid in it, if you dissolve 1 teaspoon of glucose into that gallon, that is a normal blood sugar level. After we eat a high carbohydrate meal, all those glucose molecules cause a spike in the blood sugar level way above normal. That stimulates the production of insulin from the pancreas, and one of insulin's jobs is to bring that blood sugar level down again, because our body and type 2 diabetics know that high levels of blood sugar are dangerous. But what often happens is that the falling blood sugar level overshoots and you get a glucose crash. That triggers a sense of hunger, and so you start eating again and you eat more carbohydrate and repeat this process over and over again. So people who put weight on are often on this glucose spike crash roller coaster of feeling hungry shortly after eating carbohydrates. The important thing to remember about insulin, though, it turns excess glucose in the blood into fat and stores it away. It also prevents you from using your stored fat for energy. And if you want to lose weight, you've got to use up the energy stored in your fat cells to get rid of that excess. In the presence of insulin, you can't do that because insulin won't let you. Insulin knows that if there's too much sugar around, to keep you healthy, it's got to make you burn the glucose up first, and it won't let you use fat. And this is why all those years ago in that Keckwick and Powen experiment, the people who were eating 90% carbohydrate and only 1,000 calories a day still put weight on. So the way to lose weight is to do the opposite of what we are told and eat a low carbohydrate diet with plenty of protein and fat. Some of you may be sceptical and find it hard to believe that the NHS is wrong and I am right, and I understand that, but I am certainly not the only person spreading this message. I wrote about this in detail in my book, Stop Feeding Us Lies. I mentioned that to give you context for what I'm about to show you. A few months ago, I received a message from someone I don't know on social media, and that person is a nurse and a health visitor. I have her permission to quote what she sent to me, but I'm not going to give her full name. The message I received was this: "Your book turned my life around. As a lifelong yo-yo dieter who was morbidly obese in January last year and about to sign back up to Slimming World, your book was out in front of me. Within minutes, I knew I couldn't go back to Slimming World. I am now 6 stone down, with general health improvements, including less problematic periods and less anxiety. As a nurse of 30 years and a health visitor, I am directed to pass on nutritional advice, which I just don't believe anymore. I can't believe how wrong we have it. And there are barriers everywhere." So she had been a nurse working for the NHS for 30 years, and she was obese. When she eventually rejected the consensus and did the opposite of official recommendations, she lost 6 stone in weight and improved her health. Now there's more to say about this, but I'm going to save it for another time. But in the meantime, if you know anybody who is really struggling with their weight and health, please share this video with them, and then between us, we can help them.